My name's KARRA. I'm an artist, songwriter, vocal producer, and today I'm here filming my very first podcast with guest Reid Stefan.
Reid Stefan, Realest Puppet in the game. Thank you so much for having me as your guest on episode 1. I couldn't be more honored to be here to bless the first episode of the KARRA podcast.
I think a great place for us to start is for me to actually talk about how I got into music in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So music has always been a huge part of my life. My mother was actually my voice teacher, and she taught me how to sing, which is a pretty unique experience. And it kind of makes it blurry as to when I actually started singing, because I literally just remember singing my entire life. So I just remember being a young kid asking my parents if I can do theater, dance, music classes. I learned how to play the piano. I was a clarinetist. I played a couple different instruments, trombone. That was short-lived. I conducted my high school marching band. I was in the wind ensemble. Literally anything that had to do with music or expressing myself artistically, I was involved with.
Yeah, all the extracurricular activities.
Yeah, I was definitely a high achiever, or not a high achiever, an overachiever.
The extracurricular queen.
I was the extracurricular queen. I can't say that damn word.
That's okay. You don't actually ever need to say the word extracurricular to be the extracurricular queen. You just show up and be.
Okay, I like that. So I was definitely pushed into music through all of my interests, and it grew when I think I hit high school, and that's when I started actually writing my own music and creating bands with my friends and doing performances. Believe it or not, I was in a rock band.
How edgy of you.
So edgy. And I was in an emo band called When Shadows Collide.
Yep. We all had an emo band with a name like that.
Yeah, but it was really fun because it was just me and my friends getting together and creating music. So I enjoyed doing that on my free time, which I had very little free time with all the things that I was doing. But that being said, I was really struggling in school. I am not the type of person that can sit in a classroom and get good grades. Like, I actually had to try to pass all my classes.
Yeah, well, it didn't come naturally.
No.
It didn't just flow.
No.
It didn't seem fun.
No. But the music flew.
Yes.
Like, it flowed.
Yes. The music flew.
It flew.
The music flew out of you.
Exactly. So that was definitely a sign for me, because I was constantly daydreaming about being a pop star. I literally would be sitting in class, and I would be dreaming about me dancing on stage, singing songs, basically being another Britney Spears or, Christina Aguilera. I mean, those were the big girls at the time. And all I kept thinking about was me being on stage. And so being in a classroom really didn't resonate with me at all. But I did learn so much by having such a dominating schedule, because it really taught me discipline, especially with dance, because I would go to New York City and do like the winter intensives at Broadway Dance Center. And those teachers are so scary. And that experience for an 11-year-old to go and do that on her own, it showed me that I was pretty fearless.
Absolutely.
And I was pretty eager to get out in the world and to put myself in those challenging situations to grow. So that led me to trying to figure out what I was going to do beyond high school. I didn't necessarily want to go to college, but that was something that my parents really wanted for me. And, I understand college is presented to everybody as this golden opportunity that you can't miss, and you need to have a degree in order to succeed in life. And so I understand where that came from. Didn't really resonate with me, but I still went anyway. And my mom was actually the one who came to me and was like, well, why don't you do a music business degree? And I was like, okay, well, that that's in line with what I want to do.
Right. It has the word music in it, and it also has a safe word like business in it.
Exactly.
So it's like a meet in the middle.
Yeah, so I'm in the middle, and I went to Nashville for college. That was probably the worst 4 years of my life, to be honest. And we'll get into more stories of like life stories in general. This is just a big overview of my life in music. But it was just a challenging place for me to thrive because I just felt so out of place in Nashville, the city itself.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't fit in with the crowd there.
Yeah.
But I made the most out of the situation.
Of course.
And I was recording music. I was recording my first songs and working with producers. And that's what led me to LA.
Yeah.
It was like a transitional period for me. And then in 2010 is when I graduated college and moved to LA. And that's when I met
Reid Stefan.
Wait, no, not 2010. That's when I graduated high school.
Yeah.
2014.
Add 4 years to that, yeah.
Yeah, 2014. And then
Math wasn't a strong subject in college either, I'm guessing.
Math was actually my worst subject. And in order for me to go to the school I went to, I had a math stipulation because my SAT scores were so bad that I literally had to take extra math classes.
Yep.
I was like, I'm a music business degree. What the heck?
I know. Leave me alone.
Why do you have to torture me even more?
Yeah.
But anyways, I think this is actually a good spot for you to talk about your upbringing.
Yeah, I'll talk about everything that led up until around 2014 when we met.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of where your life story ended.
Yeah.
So similarly to how KARRA's story kind of started before her life started, I was in a very similar situation with audio. My father was into audio. His brothers were into audio, and he was doing sound at live events, rock concerts, public events around North Jersey where I grew up.
Oh, yeah. By the way, we're both from New Jersey.
Yeah, her whole story took place in
that.
South Jersey. My whole story takes place in North Jersey.
Yeah.
So we're both from New Jersey, and it's a small state, but we didn't meet until we both moved to LA, which happens way later in the story. All right, so rewind way back before I was born. My father and his brothers are actually running a little local sound and audio operation around North Jersey, being an in-house sound guy at like a rock and roll club when bands come through. And it's not just local bands, but a lot of bands that went on to be big, legendary rock and roll East Coast legends, like Bruce Springsteen, the Ramones. A lot of people from that era.
He's like a legend in Jersey.
Had come through these small clubs in North Jersey where my father and his brother were the local sound guys. And yeah, so there was all of this knowledge and expertise in audio and even equipment in audio, all of these speakers and XLR cables and mixers and just microphones and things that you'd see on a live stage have just been in my garage. And my father, being the forever resourceful and hardworking person that he is, he took that audio equipment and he ended up just being the guy to call around North Jersey, and word gets around that someone has this stuff for rent and people start...
It's hard to access this stuff.
Right. It is hard to access good audio stuff and people who know how to use it. So that was just kind of like a side hustle that my father was doing while he was working his day job, which happened to be at Sony. But he happened to work in the television production department of Sony. So he knew a lot about video in addition to audio. A lot of video and audio knowledge was passed down to me at a young age, or I was always around it. I would always be at the gigs, just helping move things. And by the time I got to high school, there was these kids who were local DJs. And when they would get a big gig, they would rent big sound system stuff from my dad. And they would be a great side hustle on the weekends. And I would always be there lifting it and moving it. So I kind of became part of their DJ company. And they were doing weddings and sweet 16s and birthday parties and bar mitzvahs. I sang
at weddings too.
Yes. Yeah. There's huge parallels between our stories where we were providing music services as we were learning music.
I actually think it's so crazy coincidental that we both had a parent that was exactly in line with our life path, which is your dad was an audio guy and my mom was a singer.
A vocal coach.
And a vocal coach. And my mother had so many different gigs, but she would teach private lessons in the home. And so I believe that I got so good at singing and my ear trained so well because I listened to thousands of her vocal lessons in the house, in addition to going around and doing church gigs.
Right.
As a young kid, all the way up until I was in college, I sang at church for many, many years, a big portion of my life.
Yeah.
And I sang at weddings, I sang at funerals, masses. So I really got good experience in the world. And granted, it wasn't a lot of money.
No.
I would literally get paid $50 if I was lucky.
Opportunities.
It was just opportunities, but we did it consistently.
Yep.
And so we both saw the value in music.
Yep.
As a job.
Right. And we both became like the plug in our community for our respective work at kind of a young age.
Yeah.
Like even in middle school, I already knew what a clipping mic sounded like and what needed to be done to fix it.
That's amazing.
I already knew what to do when the mic was feeding back into the speakers and how to fix it. I already knew how to solve and troubleshoot all kinds of audio related things and set up things. And like I was saying with the friends who were DJs, when they graduated high school and moved on, I was still a high school student and I kind of picked up where they left off. So I did my first few DJ gigs by myself for free. Didn't charge them anything, knowing that I
did a lot of free work.
Yes, knowing that someone would see the value in what we did and ask if we could do that for them, and then we would just charge them. And that's absolutely what happened. And from there, you just keep working and raising your prices and growing your services. And by the time I was a senior in high school, I had this humongous wedding DJ company with this van full of equipment.
You paid yourself through college.
Saved up everything I needed to pay through college, all just by being a wedding DJ on the weekends. And I had Monday through Friday to do my schoolwork, which was an absolute struggle. And I absolutely detested it while it was happening. I'm sitting here learning how to apply for a job that's going to pay me less than what I'm making right now.
Insane.
As a 17-year-old, and I'm supposed to be excited when I turn 18 to go to this school and learn how to make less than what I'm already making. And I knew this from a young age. I don't think I could really have a 9-to-5 job. Honestly, working from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day sounds like a luxury now because we work from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m.
24/7. When you're an entrepreneur, 24/7.
Working on weekends. But as a kid, for some reason, that seemed more exciting to me than working for somebody else. It was just starting my own thing, even if it meant that I would be endlessly working. It just seemed more exciting to me to do my own thing. I also
had that same feeling inside of me throughout my entire life. I just couldn't see myself having a normal job. I would constantly be daydreaming about being an artist. And of course, I didn't know all of the steps that I would have to take to actually get to that.
Yes.
But because all you see is what the production is from the outside, and you don't see all the details and all the steps.
Yes. It's hard to know what goes into a show just by watching the show. And your whole life, you go from being a spectator to then being like, you know what, I want to be a creator. I want to be a producer or an artist. And there's so many different words for it. And there's a lot to learn.
It's dedication. It's true dedication. And that's the experience that we've had, especially this last decade. I mean, we moved to LA in 2014.
Both of us.
And that's when we really started our career journeys.
Absolutely.
I was by myself. I had to figure out what steps to take on my own.
Yep.
And it was really hard. But you actually started DJing because you won a Calvin Harris contest.
In my career, I guess you could say there are multiple things that decisively transitioned me away from being a home local person providing services to being somebody known around the world and regarded in some way and valued in some way. And the first was what you mentioned, sorry, let me drink some water and then tell the story.
do 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 do. Do, 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 do. And we're back.
Voice sounds much better now. So the first thing was participating in remix contests. There was these websites and I was entering in all of them. And I ended up winning a big prize contest. And that was for Calvin Harris for this song, Let's Go by Neo. And
Let's go.
That one. You'll remember it. So this is around 2012, and the prize was to be the opening DJ for Calvin Harris at Ushuaia in Ibiza, which is like the largest and most prestigious dance and house and EDM and all the biggest acts
That's
across
kind of
all
insane.
angles of dance music are listed on there. So this was like a mega prize because they put you up in a hotel room there for
I would
a week.
literally be shitting myself.
I got there on a Monday night, and the Swedish House Mafia played. On Tuesday, David Guetta played. On Wednesday was the Calvin Harris night that I was the opening act of. And when I say opening for Calvin Harris, thankfully I went on, and then another DJ went on, and then another
Like, you
DJ
were
went
the
on, and then another
opening.
DJ went on, and then Calvin Harris went on. So like I was playing to
the
staff, like cleaning up the chairs from around the pool as they were converting it from a day lounge to a nightclub.
Perfect.
But honestly, this could not have been more thankful to me because I had no clue how to use CDJs. I had never, ever in my life gotten my hands on a pair of CDJs, and I had to go fly to Europe and do this opening gig for Calvin Harris on CDJs. And
in true Reid fashion.
in true Reid fashion, I didn't do any research. I thought I knew how to use the thing, and I just figured it out as I went. So I just used Finder, and any DJ is going to start shaking their head right now. Instead of opening up Rekordbox and organizing your music correctly to export to your USB sticks correctly, I was like, yeah, I'll just do Finder. I just make these folders. I got my stuff in Finder already. How hard can it be? So you put your songs on the USB stick, and I'm up there on stage. None of the tempos load. I have no clue what BPM any of my
How do you
songs are.
even DJ?
None of my waveforms load. Like the song lengths don't even load. I have it literally loads the waveform of what you've already heard. It doesn't show you anything that's coming up. And I was like, man, DJing with CDJs is hard. People are making these jokes about DJs up there doing nothing. No way. This is impossible. Like, because I'm so used to my wedding DJ rig, which is this goofy USB thing that plugs into a laptop. And here I am up with the fireworks and the smoke and stuff with no clue what I'm doing, realizing that today's the day my dream came true and I'm completely unprepared. But like I said, thank goodness it was just the staff.
But it's also those moments that you need to push you to the next level.
Right.
Like I can also remember so many times where I had a similar feeling situation, but it really opened up me, or it just opened me up like energetically to be able to attract like the next level of life.
You walk in thinking like, oh yeah, I got a nice gig. I must be
and then you
hot.
get knocked
and then you walk
right
out
down
saying,
to the bottom.
I have so much to learn.
It's almost like you go up, like you work towards a certain level, and then you get put in a situation like that, and then you get knocked down to the bottom of the next level.
Right.
And then you climb up that next level, and then it continues and goes on.
Right. It definitely is tiers.
It's tiers for sure.
Yeah, the remix contest, where I could say like the first tier of me getting my name established, YouTube was the second big tier of me getting my name established. So being a remixer on YouTube, I was putting out top 40 remixes, like one a week on the DJ Ridiculous YouTube channel. And anybody who's been following for 10 plus years will remember my channel used to be called DJ Ridiculous, and it used to just post top 40 remixes. And this was before YouTube used to copyright strike you and take stuff down. It was the Wild West, and I took full advantage. This was at the time that I was working my one and only job while I was in college at a radio station in New York City called Z100.
Which is insane because I would listen to Z100 in the morning show with Elvis Duran every single morning on my way to school.
He is one of the biggest live broadcasters in radio doing it right now.
Elvis Duran is freaking amazing. What was it like working with him?
It was the coolest guy you can imagine working for. Listening to the radio and being a fan of him as an entertainer is a lot like being with him in person.
Yeah.
Because his personality shines on the air and his personality shines off the air too.
Yeah.
It's really...
That's beautiful.
What you hear on the radio is what you get.
And I also can see where you picked up some skills from him.
A ton
just
of
within
skills.
you.
I learned a lot of the ins and outs of what makes the A-list market top 40 radio station go. I even had my own little mix show called the DJ Ridiculous Friday Mix that they would broadcast on the air.
What a cool
and
opportunity.
I would be sneaking all my remixes in there and different mashups and stuff that I made. And that helped grow my brand tremendously.
Didn't you have a remix, a Rihanna remix that was on BPM like consistently?
Yeah, before I got on the radio myself through this job that I got hired for. This was the first time I ever heard anything I made on the radio. It was around 2012. I was probably waiting to see if I won this Calvin Harris contest or not. And I was driving around listening to Sirius XM BPM and some bootleg remix that I made of, I think it was the Diamonds Shine Bright Like a Diamond song by Rihanna, comes on Sirius XM BPM. And I'm like, no way. How? Who? What? This was just like a YouTube upload, and it was a popular YouTube upload, but to hear myself broadcasted back while I was driving was surreal.
That's crazy.
How do you take your singing from sounding like this? I'm like, hey, what's up? Hello. Seen your pretty ass soon as you came in the door. I just wanna chill, got a stack for us to roll. To this. In love with the money, I ain't never let it go. And I get high with my baby. My name is Reid Stefan, Realest Puppet in the game.
And I'm Nash Overstreet.
And we are your new AutoTune instructors.
I'll be in the kitchen cooking pies with my baby, yeah.
The AutoTune Pro course is your complete guide to the world's best vocal tuning software.
My baby, yeah.
We're breaking down the music industry's biggest secrets to make any singer sound like a radio-ready pop artist. First, you'll be learning how to tune bad singing. This is your complete beginner's guide to AutoTune graph mode and manual pitch correction for drawing in your notes by hand. Next, you'll be creating artificial vocal harmonies from just one lead vocal recording.
Instead of having to have a singer sing the harmonies, we'll just create them, saves time, let them go get the massage while you're doing the editing.
Yeah, and I could ride with my baby.
Perfect. Way better than I would have sang it. Finally, you'll learn how to tune a naturally good singer to add that radio-ready polish that you hear on every modern vocal.
My mama don't like you and she likes everyone. And I never like to admit that I was wrong.
Get the AutoTune Pro course now, only at wholeloops.com.
I started messing around with production when I was maybe like 14 years old, when my parents finally got a Mac computer and I was able to get on GarageBand.
Yep. Oh,
I started my production career there.
Yep. Yes. Tell us the story of your first home recordings.
Oh my God, this is so funny. So I would set up my laptop. I didn't have any gear, no microphone, no nothing. And I would use the laptop microphone to record my vocals.
The webcam mic.
The webcam mic. So I didn't know how to adjust the levels on this microphone because you couldn't really.
Yeah.
So what I would do for a belted chorus was that I would click record and then I'd scurry over to the opposite side of the room.
Yep.
And I would record my big loud chorus.
Nice.
And I'd run back over. Fuck, that sounded like shit. Do it again. Do it again. And it was just a nightmare. But I honestly appreciate those moments so much because it just once again showed me how fearless I was to at least try. I think a lot of women especially can be afraid of diving into technology because it is such a male-dominated space.
Absolutely.
And so that's actually one of my purposes in life, was to be a woman using this gear and showing you what you can create with it online. And I think we're doing a pretty good job at that.
That's super powerful. And I think that's also going to be an ongoing theme of this podcast.
Yeah.
Is showing how much can be done on your own with a little bit of knowledge and a lot of self-belief and the relentless willingness to try again and keep trying
and fail
and maybe just do 1 or 2% better every time so that over time you're like 50% better and 80% better.
Yeah.
And you can really see progression when you look back and listen to those old recordings that you've made.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed listening back to those recordings because it really does put things in perspective for me and shows me how far I've actually come. And it's insanely entertaining, and it definitely brings up a lot of memories. And I love going back and digging into my past and just seeing the evolution.
You're lucky you have some of your old recordings. Unfortunately, mine got destroyed due to a failed hard drive. But
Yeah.
some of my
Yeah,
earliest
that
home
happens.
recordings were using a software named Sony that my dad was able to get a serial number to. It was called Sony Acid.
Okay.
And anybody, I know it's a weird name. And there was a genre, there was a genre of house music called
Peace,
acid
love,
house
and acid.
that was super popular. It was all the rage back in the late 90s. And I
Yeah.
think that's why they chose that name, to maybe get those kind of
Get the
electronic
young ones
producers
interested.
Anyways, so here I am trying to figure out Sony Acid, and all I could make was acid house, because like it was like boing, like those, those synths, the acid
Yes.
house synth, with all like the resonance and stuff. And so because it was kind of like GarageBand, where it had lots of built-in loops and samples, and they were very forward thinking.
Yeah.
And you could like drag them on the timeline and it'll be whatever tempo you want it to be. But it was just acid house.
Oh my God, that's so funny. And you lost all those songs, all those gems?
Yeah, all my
damn it.
13-year-old acid house creations, unfortunately, got lost.
Who knew Reid Stefan was an underground acid house producer? I was 14 years old
Classic
making acid
bangers,
house.
unfortunately.
I could just see you with like your little glasses, just like clicking buttons.
Trying to find the guitar. Trying to find a guitar, because I liked rock music. I didn't like acid house. Like at the time, I wanted to make like a song that sounded like Taking Back Sunday or something that I thought was cool, or My Chemical
Probably
Romance.
sounded sick though.
I wanted to record my friend's band or be in a band or something. I never learned any. This is the hilarious part. You talked about all the instruments that you learned.
Yeah.
I never really learned any musical instruments.
I know, that's crazy.
On a masterful level where I could like do it on stage, outside of these DJ controllers and like music production software. I work with really talented musicians, and that's my favorite way to make music, because I love hearing things and being like, ooh, but do that again. Like that's kind of like me as a producer, is like find a great guitar player. And it just stems from going all the way back to me as like a child being like, well, I can't play the guitar. I can't play the drums.
You don't have to know how to play instruments.
But I know a lot about audio. So where's the bands? Where's the rap artists at?
But there's also a lot of producers that can play instruments but don't know much technicality behind the audio.
Right. So all throughout my early and late high school days before leaving for college, all the bands would come to my house and record in my basement.
That's so fun.
All the local rap artists would come in college. All the local rap artists would come record in my dorm room. It was just felt natural to have a home studio set up and to have people come through.
Yeah, I love that. And I was practicing dance and theater and going on all of these different auditions for shows and choirs and stuff. And that was literally my boot camp for getting good at singing.
Yeah, being the lead role in a play is a lot of work.
It is. And I did get a couple lead parts in high school and some of the different plays that I auditioned for. I didn't always get the lead. I think there's a lot of value in being a supporting role and being in the cast and being a lead. I think it's the same thing for being a songwriter, a vocal producer, a producer. Like having the knowledge from all angles is so incredibly important, and being able to actually finish a body of work that's convincing and sounds good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I definitely appreciate that time learning from other people that were better than me and having all of these different teachers, but there was still something inside of me that just wanted to be independent. Like I just wanted to do my own thing. I didn't want to listen to a teacher all the time.
Right. I felt the same fire inside me. So I don't really want to learn. I mean, these classical songs are absolute bops. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but like,
I sing classical music.
I'm trying to write my own songs.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's kind of what turned me off about traditional instrument learning was you had to learn to play these songs that didn't really resonate with me at the time. Like I liked listening to rock music and hip hop music.
But it's necessary for your ear training.
Yeah.
I think a lot of questions I get revolve around how do you become a good songwriter? And I always say it's in ear training. It's in exposing yourself to different kinds of music
Yes.
from different eras, different artists,
Yes.
anything.
Yes.
So it really is about exposing yourself. And that's what I feel like I was doing unconsciously as a kid. I wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to expose myself to this kind of art.
Right.
I was doing that naturally because I was curious about it.
Right.
And I do want to say that even though my mom was my voice teacher, she still was unclear about my path, like as an artist, as a songwriter, because at the end of the day, I grew up in a middle-class family that really hustled for what they had, and they worked really hard for what they had, but they weren't aware of how the music industry works. So I didn't have that guidance from a parent in making that transition. Neither did you. I mean, your dad was the same way. Like, yeah, he was good in audio and had those like local opportunities, but our parents didn't have any connections when it came to
to help us branch out beyond just our local community, and to become known and to become popular.
That was up
and
to
to
us.
become valuable worldwide.
And it's almost like I had the music theory training and the by the book training, whereas you had more of just life experience training
and technical training.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. And us coming together, we were able to combine those skills and create something out of nothing. Really.
Absolutely. And we were both successful in our own ways before we met. And I think I want to ask you, what were your first successes that led you to being an artist? Because these are going to be all things that happened before we met.
Yeah, I have one thing in particular that really sticks out to me is when I went to college, that's when I started actually recording my own music. And I met this producer, Lenny B, and he produced my EP for me. And he was great, actually. He gave me gigs to sing these like workout remixes. So I would literally come into his studio and sing covers of these big pop songs at the time. And he made them into dance remixes.
Shout out to Lenny B.
Yeah, thanks, Lenny B.
The OG. I remember seeing the name on all kinds of remix packages over the years. I really appreciate him. He taught me a lot. And we worked really well together. But it was one of the songs that I did with him got picked up by this random DJ duo called Massive Vibes, and they made a remix to my song What I Had. And no, not What I Had. It was Dreamcatcher. And that remix got posted on Proximity, which is one of the biggest EDM YouTube channels. Yep.
And I had no idea what Proximity was. I actually didn't really know what EDM was at the time. I was just listening to the radio, like top 40 music and rock,
and
emo
especially
music.
in Nashville, like that scene didn't bubble in Nashville until it already got really popular in LA and New York. So
yeah, I mean, they definitely had shows, and some of my friends in college that were from California, they were ravers, and they took me to these shows, and I was like, what is this stuff? But that was really what got me introduced to EDM. And so they did this remix. It got posted on Proximity, and I remember that remix hitting 1 million views. And I was like, holy shit, 1 million? Because at the time, I didn't even have a YouTube channel.
It's got like 2 commas in it. I never would have thought.
And all these people were commenting like, I love this song. And I was like, whoa. And so when I moved to LA, Blake, the guy who created Proximity and posted that song, I met up with him, and he was my first contact in LA. And I don't even know exactly what we talked about that day, but it was definitely one of those moments where I was like, okay, this is opening a door. I have to go explore it.
YouTube opened a lot of doors for a lot of people. And this is what I was saying earlier. Aside from winning the remix contest, having a YouTube upload with a lot of views really does change your life. Not because you got like a lot of Google AdSense checks or whatever, but because of
the exposure.
Yeah, the exposure. You're at the top search result on the top search platform, on the top place that everyone's looking. Like you're at the top now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was really eye-opening for me because at the time I thought the only way to even make it was to be big on YouTube, because YouTube was the thing.
Yeah.
And TikTok did not exist.
Yeah.
You know?
And yeah, marketing yourself on Facebook was basically just spamming comments on other people's fan pages saying, please listen to my music.
I would literally so I never saw myself doing covers. Like, I always try, like, I did a couple covers and I tried to be one of those like cover artists. Didn't work for me.
With the candles.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I actually was so jealous of those people that could just make these covers.
Tons of views.
Yeah. So I tried to do it one time with a Kesha mashup, and literally it's so embarrassing. So I go back to look at my old tweets, and it was literally me just every day tweeting Kesha, like, listen to my cover of your song. Like, that was gonna do anything.
I know. And Kesha's team's like looking at this like, should we block this account or something?
Who the fuck is this psycho?
I know.
Well, here, this will make sense to you. I didn't have any social media. I didn't even have an iPhone until I went to college. So I wasn't on the internet like you were.
Right.
I didn't know about content.
Right. I was on the internet. My parents gave me this computer that they found at the recycling center that still worked when I was really young. And I was on the internet exploring MySpace, trying to figure out how to build a brand, trying to figure out how to build a profile from a very young age. I knew that there was something significant going on with social media, and I knew that you could become something significant if you just used it in a strategic way. It's just, what is that way? Right.
I was too busy honing in my skills of becoming a good songwriter and singer that I overlooked social media so hard. I just didn't know what to even do or how to start. I was like, my life isn't interesting. What am I going to post?
I was on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm like, screw being talented. Yeah. I want fireworks. I want pyrotechnics and explosions when my drop drops.
And also, it was hard for me to put myself out there on the internet because I truly had no self-confidence. I had no self-worth. I got made fun of quite a bit for my interests growing up. And it was actually really traumatic for me. I remember a lot of situations where I got bullied for being who I was, and it really made me scared to put myself out there. And so I just didn't even know where to start with that. And I kind of just dug into my work, and I'm actually pretty grateful for that though, because I was able to come onto the internet when I felt like I was at least a little bit more confident in who I was and what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you don't have any sort of guidance on what to do, because there's a million things you can do. So where do you even start with that stuff?
Absolutely.
So there's still so many stories for us to tell about our life and upbringing, but I think we covered a lot of really good stuff. I think a great place to end this podcast would be to tell the story of how we met.
It's a good story.
Because we got a little bit of a background on both of us, and then we met in 2014 when we both moved
out
to
of New Jersey. We had our first few big breaks on YouTube, and we feel like our feet are on the ground enough to show up in LA and be able to figure out what to do to make money, to keep ourselves busy, to continue to grow. And it just happened to be in the same year, around the same time, that we both made the move from New Jersey to California, and this is where we met. And I'll let you take it from here.
So when I was living in Nashville, I released a song called Wild Love, and it was featured on this blog called Kings of A&R. And the guy who ran that blog, he actually was from a town near me in New Jersey. It all goes back to Jersey, man.
We used to surf together. This guy, I've only seen this guy in a wetsuit. Like, we've only been surfing together. It's not like I was plugged in the music industry in New Jersey.
Right. So I met this guy before I moved to California, and I basically was telling him how I didn't know anybody, and do you know anybody that I could possibly work with? And the only person that he said was Reid Stefan. I surf with this guy, Reid Stefan. And so that was the first time I ever heard of you. And I looked you up online, and I started following you, and I was like, okay, well, here's something that I can possibly figure out in the future. So I think he tried to link us up and it didn't work out.
Yeah, I got a new email address and a new phone number and everything when I moved to California. I was no longer DJ Ridiculous, and I was now just Reid Stefan.
You went through an identity crisis and changed your whole name and identity. So basically, I moved to LA, and then 2 months later, I was like lonely and single. So I downloaded Tinder. And I found you on the first 5 swipes. And I was like, oh my God, this is Reid Stefan. This is the guy that he told me about.
Tell him about my profile picture.
And it was a picture of him running out of a this is all fake. This is all edited,
Photoshopped.
by the way.
Photoshopped. Yes.
Of Reid running out of a burning animal shelter with puppies in his hand.
An armful of, just like as if I scooped up like 5 or 6 of them and ran out. Which
was featured in a BuzzFeed article for best profile pictures on Tinder.
The best of the worst.
Which is insane.
So yeah, I didn't even submit it. I think someone who must have seen my profile submitted it.
That would be weird if you submitted that to BuzzFeed and you were like trying to get on BuzzFeed.
Please make me famous.
Fucking weirdo. Anyway, so he also had a bunch of DJ pictures, and I was like, ooh, a DJ. And so we matched. And I told him the story. I was like, I met your friend. He was trying to hook us up, like to work, not, romantically. And then I went to your house that day, and then the rest is history.
Yeah. We hit it off, to say the least. And we also started working together on projects on a sporadic scale, but we were both filling our schedules with stuff by the time we met, that we were both already really busy with different things when we met. You were doing all kinds of writing sessions. I was doing all kinds of production sessions. Mm-hmm. We were just making the rounds to do any kind of work with anybody who would put us on the schedule.
Yeah.
And you really have to land in Los Angeles with that kind of mentality.
I knew no one.
Yeah. And I'm willing to meet anybody, and I'm willing to work with anybody who will give me the time of day.
Exactly. And I got linked up with my manager at the time, David Lovett. He managed me for about 8 years. And that was when I met him, right when I met you. And he started putting me in writing sessions. And I was literally writing songs every single day.
Yeah.
Every day. Once I got to LA, I realized how much work I had to put in because I was at the bottom of the barrel. Just skill-wise, I needed to learn how to write songs.
Right. Yeah.
As a pop writer.
There are so many sessions where I walked out, I was like, man, I have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Wow.
It really is such a reality check. And I was working multiple jobs, mainly a manager at Jersey Mike's. That was like my main job, making money, because I literally didn't make money from music like on a grand scale for years.
Yeah.
I would get random gigs though. Like I would sing these, I would sing like My Little Pony ads.
She'd be like the My Little Pony,
My Little Pony. And then For Real Friends, today will be the best day ever. Cause you and Go-Go are together and not the walking on side. Anyway, you get the point.
Buy the For Real Friends toys now.
Anyway, I was like really, really, really desperate for work, and that's how I got started there. So.
Yeah. It's almost comparable to speed dating.
Yeah, it is.
Instead of like getting to know them, you write a song together. Doing sessions in Los Angeles is...
whole other topic, by the way.
It's enough to do a whole podcast on sessions in Los Angeles. It was almost something different every single time.
Now, to sum all of this up, I want to talk about one of my most asked questions, which is, how did you know that music was your passion? Because I think a lot of people are confused on what their passion and purpose is in life. And I've at least had a lot of people in my life be very unsure about who they were and what they wanted to do, which is everybody's on that journey, right? But I always knew that music was it for me. It was always this innate feeling. It comes from the deepest parts of my soul. And I don't think there's any words that I could describe or like put to describe it. And I feel like you probably had that same feeling.
There was absolutely zero consideration put into plan B.
No plan B.
That was never even a thought.
I never had a plan B. I never saw anything else for myself.
Yeah.
I always saw myself on stage, being in the spotlight, creating music, creating an experience for people to watch and be entertained by. And yeah, I always knew.
And I think it's really important when you pursue the music path to be all in, because it's such a deep ocean to swim in. Like, there's so much that goes into being an artist nowadays, which we're going to really unravel with this podcast.
Yeah, so much to talk about, by the way.
Yeah,
so much.
In future
this
podcasts,
is just episode 1.
Yeah, I know. In future podcasts, I'm going to drop a cliffhanger. In future podcasts, we're going to be talking about things like KARRA's first album, making social media content, and how that relates to being a music artist and branding and all of those good things that go into not just being a musician, but to being a brand.
And also just being human, like talking about the struggles and the emotions that we experience on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
I think that's really important for me to show the world my more vulnerable side and share my story in that
That's
way
true,
as well.
because after all, we are just all humans.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to the very first KARRA podcast. Comment below any topics that you guys want us to touch on, and we will be answering y'all's questions in future podcasts. So
I think
ask
next
away.
one, maybe we'll take the top comment and we'll talk about it in podcast number 2.
And we'll see you guys next time in another podcast.
Peace out.